Yes, hello everyone and welcome to all our West Australian football fans to another edition of Around the WAFL, the official podcast of the West Australian Football League. And it's a mega weekend of football ahead of us. Round 14 and the WAFLW Grand Final between Claremont and East Fremantle. What a game that is certainly going to be. We'll talk a little bit about that later. Paul Persick with you in the BackChat studios. It's a great pleasure to have your company. And he is back from electrifying Lords and Paris, and he's here to lay the smackdown on the WAFL action. The great one, Mark Reddings. He joins me here today.
Yes, bonjour. I've got that right this time, Paul. Great to be back. Great to be back amongst the winter of Perth. But I'll tell you what, the WAFL season, as you said just a few minutes ago off air, 14 rounds in as we get to the pointy end of the season. And a couple of teams have really fallen off the cliff when it comes to finals contention. And a couple, notably East Perth, are on the move.
Absolutely. So are Peel Thunder and East Fremantle and Subiaco are starting to make the climb up as well. But also, as we said at the intro, the WAFLW Grand Final on Saturday as well.
Yeah, it should be a big crowd there at Mineral Resources Park. Weather's going to be fine, and we've got two teams that there's a sense of deja vu. Last year they played each other in East Fremantle and Claremont. East Fremantle going into that game undefeated. They got rolled by the Tigers. Well, 12 months later, Claremont haven't had a loss. They have been held to a draw by the Sharks earlier in the season, but they too undefeated. So it's going to be fascinating. As you said, you're doing the Rogers Cup, I'm doing the WAFLW. There's that WAFL game at the conclusion of those two women's fixtures. So it should be a terrific atmosphere out there on Saturday afternoon.
And of course, tickets on sale now. Make sure you get to a game. It's going to be a ripper weekend of football. This is Around the WAFL, the official podcast of the West Australian Football League. Now, there was an interesting story here, Skeet, just before we go to our Round 14 preview. There was a story that popped up about the length of the season. You know, each team having 18 games. Should there be more, just to give more hope to those teams that are on the edge of the 5 or just outside?
Yeah, I'm not sure about the length of the season being too short. What I would like to see next year, and I think it's worth bearing in mind that, you know, last 2 or 3 seasons there's been an element of the COVID restrictions. With the AFL starting their season predominantly late March, I'd prefer to see the WAFL season start earlier with 2 or 3 weeks of local footy with clean air, nothing to get in its way in terms of publicity and profile, and then maybe take a break mid-year of 2 weeks if need be, or whatever the case may be. And I know there's an issue with the end part of the year, but I would prefer an earlier start date. Whether there's more matches, that's up for argument. I mean, that brings into question, I guess, players' salaries and administration costs and what goes with that. But yeah, for mine, next season, I'd really like to see an earlier start for the WAFL. If it means us finishing, for instance, towards the bye in the AFL finals round, or even a little bit earlier than the prelim final week, as it is this year, I'll be open to that. As for more matches, the problem is you talk about giving sides able to climb up the ladder, but also it gives an opportunity for the gap to widen. So, yeah, there's an argument both ways.
Also, the WAFLW Grand Final could present that case as well, because we're at that time. Last year, there was no WAFL men's action, so it allowed the WAFLW Grand Final to be a standalone fixture all on its own. It's not the case this year.
No, exactly. That's why I said if you could start the season earlier, as I said, I really think, and albeit the heat of late February, early March is a factor. Bear in mind the NRL starts really early in March, right. So that gives them a bit of a kickstart over the AFL. But from a WAFL perspective, play the games late afternoon, a bit of twilight footy, and you're right, have that break during the middle of the year, whether it's 2 or 3 weeks, a couple of weeks, have the women's grand final with clean air. That's certainly one consideration. So, yeah, all those are up for discussion.
And it gives the WAFLW Grand Final at this time a little bit of extra publicity with no sort of competition when you look at it from any of the men's fixtures. Unfortunately, it is the case this year with a night game afterwards over at Lathlane. That is West Coast and West Perth. Fans, get involved in this. Should there be a longer season, or should it be condensed? Let us know on our socials, Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Give us a big thumbs up as well. And you can also comment below on our YouTube channel, BackChat Studios, and search up this episode of Around the WAFL. Now, we go into the Round 14 games, Skeet, and just a reminder, of course, all games are live, free and in full on the AFL app. The first one, West Coast and West Perth on Saturday night at Mineral Resources Park in Lathlane. The Eagles, they gave a good account of themselves against the Demons, escaping with a draw. Will they be high on confidence against the reigning premiers?
Well, they'd certainly have to be buoyed by what they produced. They were unlucky not to win that game by all accounts, and a bit of controversy perhaps even at the end where there was a rush behind or a point scored for Perth. But bottom line is they were very competitive. They were gone in that game. I think best part of 4, 5, 6 goals down and able to fight their way back. So I guess the issue for West Coast is that they don't have any players there that immediately, given that performance, jump into calculations for AFL footy. We've discussed the changes that need to be made for the WAFL team going forward in terms of recruitment and allowances. But yeah, that was a really good performance. They're at home to a West Perth side that, dare I say it, they're not playing finals this year. Darren Harris is phasing himself out of the club, and they were poor last week for a long part against East Fremantle. So you still think West Perth will be good enough to win the game, but once you've won a premiership and then the following year you're essentially out of the finals reckoning, I wouldn't put anything past West Perth in the last part of the year, just because the appetite would clearly have diminished, knowing that they can't go back to back.
And even if they've got nothing to lose, and this may cause some heat amongst the WAFL landscape, but I beg to differ. I'm going with the Eagles.
Yeah, well, that's a brave call. I think West Perth still have the quality to win, so I think they win. But you're right. I think there's a little window here for West Coast if West Perth have basically shut the curtains for the year.
West Perth have got the quality, but they just haven't delivered during a lot of that season. I think they've only won 1 or 2 of their last 6, and that one was at home against South Fremantle. Considering their record at home has been absolutely subpar this year, and their record on the road.
Yes, and look, we know their quality of player is still there. We know the old heads in terms of Keitel, in terms of Black, Nelson. They've got the nucleus of a team which should be playing finals. Let's be honest. But it's funny, you strive for a decade to win a flag, and we've seen a bit of that in the AFL this year with Geelong not anywhere near their best for most of the year. It's human nature. If you've been striving so hard as the Falcons have to break the drought, they do that. Then 6 months later, to have the fire in the belly as it was 12 months before that, it's always difficult to replicate.
Absolutely, of course. So it'll be an interesting time for West Perth in those final 6 or 7 weeks. Now we go to the Sunday action, a morning match over at Mineral Resources Park. This one will also be live on Channel 7 at 11:30. Perth and South Fremantle at Mineral Resources Park. South Fremantle, well, they got that scare last time they met against the Demons at home, 4-point win, and now the Demons have that home field advantage. They should have got the 4 points against the Eagles.
Yeah, they should. And look, you mentioned Perth. They've got a pretty good record against South Fremantle in recent times. And I think it was Matty Taylor might have kicked the winning goal against South Fremantle going back early this season at Fremantle. So they won't have any fears, Perth. And South Fremantle, look, obviously the salary cap breach makes their ladder position look worse than what it is. But they too have been far from convincing for most of the year. We know that they've lost experience as well. Hayden Schluith's absence is noted, but you'd still think with Dylan Mayne as captain and with the likes of even forward of the ball with Jimmy Miller there and the guys that are able to produce through the middle. I mean, you think of Bletchenden, you think of some of their mids that are able to produce a lot of good footy. They still haven't been great, and up against a Perth side that has struggled, let's be honest, for the majority of the season. They've beaten West Coast. They've had an upset win over South Fremantle, but they really haven't been able to produce anything exceptional under Peter German.
But it sort of wasn't expected right away. We spoke earlier in the season that this was going to be a long-term thing, and there are going to be struggles. But the way they applied themselves against South Fremantle the last time they met was very, very good. They had the likes of Cooley, Avery and Sinclair firing, and of course one of the players kicked 5 goals before he got drafted to Essendon in the AFL. So that forward line, Jordan Hunter, that was a big loss for Perth and their forward line. It's had a hole that hasn't been filled since. They haven't had a prolific goal kicker, with the exception of Sam Stubbs.
Yeah, Sam Stubbs always gives you 2 or 3, but Jaden Hunter's departure to Essendon. You mentioned Jack Avery. The matches I have seen, I've been really impressed with him, the former Tiger, being able to hold up the defence of Perth. But they're a young list, but they do have to, a bit like the West Coast Eagles, they have to find a way to bring some players into a club that, and Barra as president and Germo as coach, they have to try and find some more quality because it's not there. It's clearly not there at the moment. They'll take time to develop. The upside is that their Colts are going well, so hopefully that is something that they can draw on in the next 12 months, and some of those emerging young teenagers can make the step up to the league.
Who wins on Sunday?
South Fremantle.
I'm going the other way. I'm going to say Perth.
Okay, well, I hope you're right.
Well, I know that because you're a Demons man. Now, this one's a ripper. The third game on Sunday at Country Builders Stadium in Geraldton. It's a battle for third place, East Fremantle and Peel Thunder.
Gerald, what a place it is for East Fremantle. What a breeding ground for some of their great footballers over the years. And look, they'll use this as a fantastic, match to draw a crowd. Invoke a bit of some memories of the players that have come through East Fremantle over the years from that part of the world. So, yeah, it's going to be fascinating. I think I've been up to Geraldton once for a game. That was a pre-season game between the Dockers and Richmond about a dozen years ago. So, it's a real chance for the community to get around the Sharks. And look, they're playing some pretty good footy. This is one of the games of the round, as you say, and will have a bearing as to the ladder positions at the end of the season. Because Peel, bear in mind, the Dockers have got some injuries this week, so that might well affect how strong Peel Thunder is heading into this game. So East Fremantle for mine, probably favourites, deservedly so. They're currently fourth on the ladder. Peel third, a game the difference. Percentage-wise, East Fremantle have got Peel covered. If they win this game, they probably jump up to third.
That's going to be a huge game, and it puts a huge bearing, I should say, on the double chance. The winner of this one could pretty much have a good road to finishing in third and getting that qualifying final.
Absolutely, it's huge. And in the WAFL, to come from fourth and fifth, very difficult. So in the context of the season, and not only winning the game, but beating a team that is in the same realms as you are is massive.
I'm going to say East Fremantle as well, but only just. I reckon it's going to be a really good game, taking into account the players that Peel may have missing because of the Dockers' injuries, but also East Fremantle, they've got Marsh back in form. Cody Leggett recently kicked 6 goals, and also their midfield is now starting to get back up to scratch, led by Milan Murdoch, but also I was very impressed with Cameron Eardley. His shift from the back line to the midfield in that win last week over West Perth was just impressive.
Absolutely, and Dylan O'Reilly's been a forward that's been giving them some options as well. So you're right, East Fremantle, I think more options going forward. I agree that playing in Geraldton, I think, might just give them a bit of a spike, and I'll pick the Sharks there.
Well, they've got a 5-4 record over there in Geraldton in 10 meetings that they've been to, so they've got a good love over there. The JK Foundation Cup as well will be on the line in honour of the great West Coast Eagle Josh Kennedy, over 200 games, and a hero he was to WA football, and he'll provide a great presence over there at Geraldton.
Absolutely, and as we said, if all things being equal, really big crowd up there, and a great advertisement for WAFL footy.
Absolutely. Let's go to the fourth game on Sunday at Steel Blue Oval, Subiaco and Swan District. The Swans, they just can't catch a break at home.
No, and they were thumped by East Perth last weekend. Only kicked the 4 goals. And look, ladder-wise, they're a team that's been so competitive without really winning. I mean, what are they? They're 6th position, 4 wins, 8 losses. I'm guessing 5 of them have been probably within a goal or 2. So doing a lot right, but they have had some injuries against a team, though, that was a bit down last week, Subiaco, fractionally down, beaten by Peel. I think that Swans probably, once again, will be in this context for a while. They've got Chris Jones, who's playing as a forward nowadays. He's been excellent for them for a long time. But outside of that, they do have issues kicking goals week to week. Jesse Turner, another 43 disposals last week. That's
huge.
That's massive. So we know he'll get plenty of the footy. We know that they've got the mids to challenge at times with Aidan Clark, who's had a really big season. Jackson McLaughlin's been a good recruit. But I still think Subiaco's quality. They're not humming along like the Subiaco premiership teams of old, but I still think they're going to play a big part in September, and they'll be winning this.
Yeah, they're getting there. They're getting there. Only just taking those small steps, because it never is easy, to get back into the 5 after missing the previous year.
Absolutely, no doubt about that. Again, spread of goal kickers is not bad. They were beaten last week by Peel, but Golding, Borshett, Zach Clark's having a big season. He could be for me, he's the guy that if he can turn it on in the finals, then Subi have a chance of going deep.
And maybe the Sandover medal for himself as well, with his consistency in the ruck.
True, good call.
Now, Subiaco, I'll say Subiaco, but I reckon one player's under the pump, and that's Ben Sokol. In the last couple of weeks, he's only kicked a goal and was held goalless a couple of weeks ago.
Well, when you say under the pump, to keep his position in the side?
No, just to get a big bag of goals. You really want to see him get back into that form that wins Subiaco their games.
Yeah, he's such a reliable player, though, isn't he? He doesn't take many spectacular marks. A lot of them are good use of the body on his chest, but he's good for a couple of goals a game. He's always a threat for a defender. He takes, a really good defender when he plays. So, yeah, I think he'll find his way to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go to the final game on Sunday, Leederville Oval. This one's a beauty. Top spot is up for grabs. East Perth, definitely the most improved side of the year, against the side to beat at the moment, Claremont. It'll be a tough one for both. It's going to be a ripper game.
Should be outstanding. I think a lot of people interested to see how East Perth fare here, because they have been the big improvers in 2023. Look, their midfield is where it all happens for them. And again, Hamish Brayshaw kicked 3 last week, arguably in Sandover medal form. Tommy Medhat He's kicked 3, including a Mark of the Year contender. I know he and Ben Milton from Peel Thunder are both in the conversation after what happened last week. But it's a great story with Ross McQueen coming in. Having spoken to a couple of the players, they really love playing for him. And it's been a breath of fresh air having the Royals go as well as they have. And Claremont, well, they find themselves back in familiar territory, just near the top of the table, and now with probably their best chance to win that elusive flag. And again, getting away with a victory against South last week. This is a test at Leederville. East Perth, though, a lot tougher to beat than, say, at River Fitness Stadium. They'll fancy their chances here, the Royals.
They had a great meeting last time earlier this season. Claremont came back and snatched the game by a kick. It was an absolute beauty, and I reckon this one will be no exception. It'll be the battle of the backlines, though, that could win out. Tom North, who's been in terrific form for the Royals in defensive 50, and at the other end, Anthony Davis, who has really been a key in stopping those opposition key forwards in the last couple of weeks.
Absolutely, and look, defences win finals or win grand finals, and you mentioned those two players. They've been outstanding, and I think it's worth noting that no Scott Jones for East Perth, we thought as ruckman, and I think a broken arm from memory.
Broken leg, that he was going to be such a massive blow to them. But I think it's young Edwards has come in and done a really good job in the ruck. So that's where they're getting it done still in the middle. Angus Shoemaker, Crode and Brayshaw, they have been terrific, and they have an unheralded forward line, but they're able to produce enough scores. And you're right, their defence, as you mentioned, off the back of their key backs, McCready's been good, North's been outstanding. I think they're a team that there's a bit of excitement around the place, and it's generally because East Perth are on the move, and that's great for the comp. Same can be said for Claremont as well. Their midfield quality. Forward line could be the same as East Perth. Doesn't get a lot of credit, with the exception of Alexander Manuel, who can kick big bags of goals, and also Jai Bolton, the veteran, the evergreen, he always delivers, and Bailey Rogers, who kicked the winner last week against South Fremantle. He can come up clutch when it matters most.
You're right. Bailey Rogers was magnificent last week in a couple of cases, kicking big goals and at critical times. And I like the resolve Claremont's showing in those situations where they've been in trouble. They were down against South. They found a way to win. That shows me that they're well and truly back and ready to make a run towards September.
Who wins? I'm putting you in the hot seat.
I'm tipping East Perth.
I'm going to go the same as well. East Perth, but only by a kick. It's going to be a ripper.
All right, let's hope so. And if they do win and hopefully finish top 2, then I'll tell you what, the crowds will... Well, they'll quickly come back. There was a time when East Perth, as part of the alignment, had great success, and they were still a bit on the nose with some WAFL supporters and maybe even some of their own, but they've gone on their own esteem now, and I think it's a great story. And I'm hoping they and East Fremantle play a big part in September.
Well, only time will tell. Every game in round 14 is live, free, and in full on the AFL app. It's going to be a big weekend in round 14. This is Around the WAFL. Paul Persigan, Mark Reddings, the official podcast of the West Australian Football League. And that's not the only action, Skeet, that we've got to look forward to. Saturday afternoon, you're on the call for this one on 7 at Lathlane, the WAFLW Grand Final. The rivalry continues.
It does, yeah. Rematch of last year, and East Fremantle, as we mentioned, undefeated going into the decider in 2022. They were beaten at Revo Fitness Stadium by the Tigers. Jack Schwartz, as coach, did a great job, and roles are reversed a bit this year. East Fremantle's been a bit up and down. They've got a new coach, Jeff Walding, who has got a great record in WAFLW, but it's foreign territory for her on Saturday. Taking on a team that's unbeaten. Mind you, they did draw. Go back through the history of these two clubs this year. East Fremantle beaten by Claremont by 6 points in round 1.
That's right.
But then a draw later in the year. So there's not much between the two clubs. So that's what looks like a really good grand final. And the week set off with Jamie Harkin taking out the Dara-Cool medal. 24 votes for the best of field in the WAFLW this season. And a double with, I think, the Joanne Huggins goal kicking award going to Adele Arna.
Correct.
So they've got the two, honours next to their name, Claremont, but can they win the grand final? It is fascinating, as you say. Both teams know the experience of going in undefeated to a grand final, although Claremont got the job done last year. Can they do it with a clean sheet, essentially, so far in 2023.
And at Mineral Resources Park, the fact that it's a neutral ground makes it a big challenge for both teams. Of course, there was a lot of talk about the grand final being held at Revo Fitness Stadium last year. Some say it gave Claremont that extra edge, but if Claremont got the job done, none of that really matters when you look at it at the end of the day. But now it's a neutral ground. It just adds more intrigue to the match.
Absolutely. And look, there'll be scouts from AFLW clubs looking, and we know the AFLW season is not far away. So there's going to be great interest. And because the Rogers Cup, which you're covering, the WAFL comes off the back of that. good luck getting a park around Mineral Resources Park on Saturday. But I think they'll get 3,500. I think, and the noise that those fans make, in all seriousness, whether for whatever reason, but the engagement that these WAFLW players get from their fans is way above and beyond what WAFL gives you like 3 hours later. They are fully engrossed in what's happening.
It's a terrific fan base, and I reckon both clubs will have their fans turn out in droves for what's going to be a good game. Obviously, Claremont, they've got the firepower everywhere. East Fremantle, they've got the Wong-Gomes combination. That could really be a big difference for the Sharks, especially in midfield. It's a tough game to pick, honestly. I genuinely can't pick a winner.
Yeah, well, I'm going to go with East Fremantle. I'm going to tip, as we did last year, the Sharks to... What are you looking at me like? There was only a kick in it last time they met. It was a draw, in fact, last time they met. 6 points in round one. So, yeah, I think history might repeat. I think Sharks might be able to cause a little upset.
Lord, if you get this one right, I'm going to be as shocked as anything. I'm going with Claremont. I'm not going to make the same mistake as I did last year and tip the undefeated team only for them to lose in a grand final.
Well, Paul, what you have to understand is that my predictions along with Scully this year has not exactly reached any great heights. So for me to fail again would just be something that I'm very much accustomed with.
Oh, come on, Skeet. You've been accustomed to success, mate.
Not in tipping. We struggle, mate. But let's hope it's a beauty, because great advertisement for the game with weather supposed to be terrific. And let's hope it's a high-scoring, entertaining game of footy, and the women get the support they deserve.
Absolutely. It's going to be live on Channel 7 from 2:45 at Lathlane, Claremont and East Fremantle in the WAFLW Grand Final. And tickets are on sale as well. Make sure you get yourselves to the game. You do not want to miss it. Skeet, thanks for your time, mate. What a big weekend of footy ahead. And as they say in France, au revoir.
See you later, Paul.
Thanks, Skeet. And thank you to all our listeners and viewers for your company on today's edition of Around the WAFL, the official podcast of the West Australian Football League. You can give us a big thumbs up on our socials, Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. We really appreciate it. You can watch us on our YouTube channel or listen wherever you get your podcast. We'll have a review of all the action on Tuesday. Make sure you join us then. Thanks for your time. We'll see you soon.
Mercy.